Hi folks, my apologies for the fact that I've been away for some time. I was working on a new chess blog, so that's why. Because of this new blog, I've created a new channel here on YouTube, and this post is to say goodbye Vladja01 and welcome Chessedelic. From now on, I will be posting videos on this Chessedelic channel. This refers to my new blog Chessedelic.com, and therefore seemed more logical to me. It was time to put an end to all these different usernames, accounts, etc. and unify a little. So you might want to consider subscribing to this new channel next. You will find the information in the info accompanying this post. On my blog you will also find other and longer videos that I cannot release here on YouTube. But for now, Vladja01 will not leave you chess lovers without another chess goodie. Okay, so let's take a look at this position. It was reached in a game between Mac the Vos and myself after the 25th move of Black Queen D3. The opening was a King's Indian, and there had been some kind of Volga, Benko Gambit type of middle game. And in this position it is white to move. And he made an error. He played Knight C3 here. And in doing so he moves away the knight from the king's side and also allows for a very nice tactical combination. I could now play bishop takes h3. And this is based on the fact that this knight is vulnerable, and that if the pawn takes the bishop, then also the h3 square will be vulnerable. And last but not least, in putting the knight on c3, the queen on b4 no longer has a retreat along this diagonal towards e1, and is therefore threatened with rook f8 to b8, now that the bishop has cleared the way in moving away from c8. So, all very nice tactical patterns, but it's white's move, and he played the in-between rook e d1 attacking my queen. So, I retreated my queen, and now of course I still have this threat of rook fb8 up my sleeve. So now white took on h3, and now I started thinking. I'm not sure what the match situation was, that it was just good enough to draw this game, or that I actually needed a win. Anyway, it doesn't matter, because I very strongly remember feeling that I wanted to win this game. And of course I considered now, okay, what happens if I play my planned rook fb8? I suppose then, if white does not want to lose the queen, he has to give up his knight, for instance, knight b5, and after rook takes b5, queen c4. I suppose I could play this endgame, with rook a4. But I was very afraid that this double rook endgame would not offer me sufficient winning chances. According to Rybka, black is quite significantly better in this position, but at the time I really couldn't make any final judgment about that. And yeah, so I was afraid that maybe this position would peter out to a draw, and like I said earlier, I really wanted to win. So after g takes h3, I started thinking, and all of a sudden I saw this beautiful idea, and the blood started pumping through my veins. And that is especially why I remember this game, because I think it's probably the most enthralling game I've ever experienced, because of this very tense move that I played now. I didn't play rook fb8, but I did play rook f3, completely abandoning the idea of regaining the piece and trying to go for an all-out attack on white's king here. And let's have a look at these white pieces. At the moment they're all a bit cramped here on the queen side, and this pawn on a3, for instance, is preventing this rook from coming into a defensive position, and the queen can also not retreat very easily, and this knight cannot retreat very easily, because then I would just simply take it with the queen, etc, etc. And this pawn, of course, here is weak, and this pawn here is weak, and this pawn here is weak, and I've got a very simple idea of putting my rook here and my queen here, double hitting the knight and hitting the pawn on h3. So when I saw all these things, I decided, okay, let's go for rook f3. It looks fantastic, and even though objectively it might not be the strongest move, and I should have played this this double rook endgame, this move rook f3 really puts my opponent under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, and it was here that he really started to think very deeply. And I don't think he played the best defense. He played here rook d2, and yeah, this protects of course the f2 square, because he was of course seeing that all my heavy pieces were going to put very serious pressure on f2, but it also protects the e2 square, so that maybe makes it possible for white to regroup his knight via e2 to g3 and try to hold on the king side. Okay, now I think I made a very slight error, and I thought it didn't really matter whether I would play rook a f8 or queen c8. In the game I played rook a f8, but probably queen c8 would have been a little bit better. Let's have a quick look at the variations. Queen c8, knight e2, queen h3, knight g3, and now h5, further putting pressure on white's king position. And after a move like queen b7, rook e8, and rook b2, preparing to defend over the third rank, I could follow up with a move like h4, rook b3, and now rook f4. And white is still under some serious pressure and has not solved his problems yet. Anyway, after rook d2 I did not play this, but I first moved my other rook to the f-file, which also looks very logical, of course. And I think that what I thought is that if he now moves his knight, which has become possible because of the rook d2 move, I can just take on f2. So I will just keep him, let's say, blocked up with his knight on the queen side. Okay. And now it was white's turn to miss the best defense. The best defense after rook f8 would have been rook c1, protecting the knight here on c3, and then after queen c8, knight e2 at this stage, and after, for instance, queen h3, rook c3. And now we can see that the rook on c3 is protected by both queen and knight, so this means that at least one of these dangerous heavy pieces can be exchanged. Okay, but white didn't play that. After rook a f8 he played knight e2 immediately. And I don't know, maybe he was hoping for something like rook f2, which would of course be very good for black, but I played the stronger queen a7. Now I'm hitting f2 3 times, and maybe this is what he overlooked. So in order to prevent a total crash on the f2 square, white now really has to give up his knight. So in the end he found the move knight d4, blocking the diagonal. But of course I could now regain the sacrificed piece, and after queen d4 I did not go for the double rook endgame, even though I could exchange on d4 and then win on f2. But I thought, no, let's keep the queens on, because I've got great pressure now against the weakened white king side. So of course I played queen d7 here, hitting h3. And now there followed rook d3, trying to exchange at least one of these rooks, queen h3, and exchange now on f3. Of course I now bring in the other rook, and now white makes the final mistake. Most tenacious would have been rook c3, and then rook f4 with the threat of rook g4, but white is just in time. Rook c3, rook g4, now he can interpose with the rook, but of course I now exchange rooks, and this is probably a winning endgame for black. So, but he didn't play rook c1. After rook f3 he played rook e1, and this has the disadvantage that it blocks the way for the king to e1. So now I could fairly easily finish the game in playing queen g4 check. He had to play king f1, and after rook h3 he resigned. We can see that I'm threatening mate here on h1, and I'm also covering this escape diagonal, and that white cannot run from the coming check over e1. So this rook e1 move was really the fate and the final nail to his coffin. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of this game fragment. It was from one of the most enthralling games I've ever played. I really hope you've enjoyed it, and well, see you on Chessedelic.com. Bye!